All right. Something I wanted to try is to look up some Excel videos and demonstrate how to do those same things in Python. These might be a little bit longer. While the Excel videos are going to be short, I'm going to be doing them live to kind of show you how you would work through problems. And I don't know exactly what we'll get into. But this is how you work it out. I also find this just an effective way to learn new tools whenever I learn like Power BI, SQL, Python, or anything. I always tried to find a video of like something people were doing in Excel and then trying to figure out how I would do that in a different tool. At least to me, I think that helps in a couple ways. One way is because if you try and just do a tutorial, like a Python tutorial, and do it on your own, sometimes you're just going to follow the steps that they do. And you're going to get to the end of it and you're going to know how to type it, but not necessarily understand how to apply it or how to come up with your own ideas or work through issues. And so I found this to be a really good way to build my skills in on other tools, not just Python. But yeah, look up how something is implemented in a different tool. I know a lot of times when I was learning Python, I'd look up how to do something in ACL or IDEA and then figure out how I would implement that in Python. So just a really good way to learn. So this first one we're going to do is just this one to calculate formulas. Again, I haven't really looked at this video, but it has a lot of views. I can kind of get the gist of it. And I think it will give us something to practice and kind of demonstrate what I would do to learn something new. So let's look at it and try and do something in Excel. All right, so this is total marks. These are the grades for each item. All right, so we're going to add across. Well, I'm going to speed it up a little bit, but I think they're going to just calculate the total across. He's dragging it down, and then I think he's going to get the percent just by dividing it by the 400. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stop it here. I'll see if he has like a demonstration data set for me. Okay, he doesn't. All right, so realistically, I think I'm going to make my own. Um, all right, so let's do that real quick. I did make a folder for this exercise. So maybe I'll go ahead and make the Excel file here. Calculate percentage. All right. And realistically, I'm just going to maybe do the first 3 rows of his example data set, just so we can see that we get the same answer as his, because that just helps us check our work. I don't like to just try and make up my own. Percent. Okay. Let's get rid of all this stuff. All right. I'm just going to put David, Jake, Anna, but Sarah. Okay. So So let's just put some number. We'll put some exact same numbers as his. All right. All right. Hope that makes sense. So we're using the exact same numbers that he did. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to close this now because we have our sample data set. And we're going to launch Jupyter Notebook by typing Jupyter Notebook. And it takes just a second. It'll pop this up. Definitely minimize it. Don't close it. All right. And then in the same folder, I did create the Python notebook. So it'll show up here. I'm going to rename it calculating percentage. All right. And we're going to import pandas as PD and create some cells. And then we're going to import this data cell. Read Excel. Now I agree, it does take a little bit till I get used to some of the base ones. But as you type it more and more, you're going to kind of just have it in your fingers after a while. So I'd encourage you just to keep doing it as many times as you can to get that practice. Do a little bit, one of these videos every day. I think would help a lot. All right, since there's only one tab, we don't need to put a sheet name. All right, so we can see the information. Whenever something's blank, it normally shows up as NaN. The other thing you can do is put .info, and we're going to be able to see that there are 3 non-null values. At least to me, that's just telling you, all these are empty. Let's change it back to DF. All right, so we want to calculate the percentage. All right, so at least to me, this will be something I'll normally Google, just to kind of calculate. We want to calculate a total this way from left to right. So let's say pandas total across columns. All right. So Stack Overflow is normally a really good resource. And again, Panda has a super big community, so there's going to be a lot of people that can help you figure it out. All right, so you can see that this person is probably doing something pretty similar. They're totaling across. Want to add a E that's going to total up A, B, and D. That makes a lot of sense. So that's pretty close to what we want to do. All right. All right, so this person, so this first one is just them creating a data frame. Kind of get used to that. A lot of people sometimes will tell you what they're going to do first. So he made the same data frame, but then he used this. All right, so the sum formula is going to have an axis option, and normally it's going to default to the column, and I think that'll make it a 0. In this instance, it's a 1. The other thing you can do, see if we want to learn about the function a little bit better, you can put pandas sum. All right, and it's going to show you this information. So this is Panda's official library, and you can research all of it, but it's a bit like the appendix, not quite an easy read to just start from top to bottom. But whenever you want to learn something, you can just Google the item, and you can kind of look at it. These are the default items. O is going to be for columns. It's going to summarize columns by default. It's going to ignore null values. It's going to say like numeric only, and that's going to be false. At least to me, I think what I've seen is sometimes if you sum up string, it's going to treat it as a concatenation, but you can also make that true to where it'll just ignore it. It goes into a little bit of detail on each of the different criteria in the function. Tells you some of the related functions, min, max, just some more advanced ones that you could be using. but at least to me, this makes pretty good sense to me. All right. So they put numeric equals true. And in their example, I'm sure because they're trying to skip those numbers, it makes a lot of sense. So for us, whenever we are doing this, let's see. Sometimes it will give you like little warnings. Normally you can ignore them. They're going to let you know that like in a future edition, they might do something a little bit different. But a lot of times it does kind of make you just define it more specifically. So I could read that and it was going to change the default in the future and was just trying to let us know. But you can just define it like this if you want. Now, this is actually not what we want, right? Because this is adding up all of these across, and we actually don't want to be totaling the total marks. All right, so what we can do is there's always a few methods. One that we could either drop total marks and then total it up and add it back, or we can just say the columns that we want. All right, so you can use double brackets, and if you do that, you can give it a list of the columns you want. All right, now this will now make a data frame of only these items. And then we can do sum, axis, just exactly the same like we have it below. All right, so that looks good. So really, we want to make a new column. Oh, no, we don't. We already have a column, right? There was one in his data set. So we can just say percentage. It's now going to equal these three. Okay. So when we go look at the data frame again, I'll go ahead and put this up here just so we can kind of remember that we did that. And now you can see the numbers are bigger, and that's because we have a new column and it's adding it there as well now. All right, so now we have our total, okay? But we don't actually want that, right? We actually want a percentage, okay? So we can do, could probably create like another column just saying percent like this. And then we can put equals. Then we can put percent over. Now it's not actually going to be percent anymore. Right now it's just a sum. We'll fix that. Oh, and then we multiplied it by 100 just so that we can make ours look a lot like his. All right, so now we have our percent like that. Now, if we want, this percent isn't really what we want anymore. We can just drop it. I think that'll work. Columns equals percent. Okay. All right, and then we need to save those results. And now we have it like this. All right, let's go look at his real quick. All right, perfect. Those are his amounts. Let's see if ours agree. All right, looks pretty good. So that's why I would do it. And then at least to me, the other things that kind of came into my head as I was doing this was, what if I don't want to type this out, right? Maybe I want to kind of do it like it is in Excel where we just have these from psi to GK. I'm going to go back to this and just see if they have any other examples. Yeah, this is kind of what I was thinking. Okay, so I think this will work, but iLock is normally it's kind of telling it to use like numeric references whenever considering different areas. So we can kind of see how he has it to work. This is DFF, so this is this column here. He is setting it equal to 0 to 2. So I'm guessing it is, so normally the first column is 0 in Python. So this one and this one, so it's 3. Um, 0, and then it's normally not going to include the one after it. So this is really just the first column through the second column. So it's going to be these two, and it's going to be 3, right? And this will be 5, this will be 7. We can kind of see how that worked. We can see just some of the other ones, just so we get the concept a little bit better. They spelled it out for us. H, okay, they put 0 to 3, so it's going to be this one, and this one, right? This is a, oh, I'm not actually sure. We could play with it and figure it out, but I think it should be 0, 1, 2, but it gives us 6. All right, I don't think I want to spend the time to figure out exactly why it's doing that, but I'm actually pretty confident this will just work the way I think it will. All right, so let's maybe make a clone of it real quick. So we're gonna make a copy. We're gonna do it a little bit different. Sum across columns. Okay. So at least to me, we're going to drop this part, right? So this is the one where we just wrote out each one, which is definitely a perfectly acceptable way to do it. But say for instance, you're gonna, in the data field, sometimes it's gonna have more than just these, and maybe you just want to sum it a little bit different. And realistically, if it's gonna look like this all the time, and it's just always gonna have like total marks and percentage at the end, maybe what I really want is to just be excluding the first one and the last one. So let's play with this a little bit. Oh, I have to rerun the stuff because we did create a new notebook. All right, cool. So this gave us these first two columns, but realistically, I don't want the first one because if it's always going to be the name, and then let's see. Okay. All right, and then in Python, you can normally put a negative, and that'll start excluding the items at the back. So there was 2, so I just put like a -2. All right, so now what this formula is going to do, and this will work better if you're going to have like different columns sizes, but you're always going to have a total and a percent at the end. So a lot of times you'll get a report and potentially it's just going to have a total at the bottom, maybe a total on the right, and like naming categories on the left, and you need to sum up the stuff in the middle, and it's not always going to be consistent. And you kind of just know that about the report. Well, then you can kind of customize this to build that logic into it when you're creating it. So what we're going to do is we've now excluded the name. We're excluding the total and the percent. All right, and then sum axis 1. We'll take this one just because I don't want it to throw that yellow error, and if I just define numeric, it's not going to do it. All right. So now we can run this, and we can see it's going to give us these numbers. All right, now this is the total, but we do have to save it to a column. And I'll kind of do it the same way, even though percent is really not what I want to be calling this. It just serves to save it in a column. Oops. All right, so now if we look at DF, we have our number, and we can kind of do our percentage the same way. And also one of the great things about this, just in Python, we can just go ahead and copy this and paste it here. Right. So that way we don't have to rewrite it. And we can see our percentages there now. So, I think this is just a great way of like how to learn things. Definitely look at it in different forms. If you have like an idea script you really like, or if you have an ACL example you really like, or if someone's done something in Tableau or Power BI that you really like, think through how you want to do it in Python and you can pick it up. And that's good for anything. You see a great Python example and you want to try and think through how you would do that in Tableau or Power BI or ACL. Go ahead and look up, different analysis in Python and try and figure it out. It's just a good way of like getting your brain working and not having a tutorial hand everything to you exactly how to type, to kind of learn these types of things. So I hope that you enjoyed this. A few bumps along the way, and to be honest, that's exactly how data analysis works. Normally, you're not going to remember every syntax all the time, but you're going to learn enough things over time that you can Google it and get a sense for what you're looking at. Like, I still don't know exactly what this is accomplishing, how it got to 6. We could play with a little bit more to figure it out, but I think what I wanted to do with this has been done. So overall, we could figure it out. It works good. This is a great way of like thinking through ways that Python can help you come up with how to do your analysis if you know your report's not going to be the same every time. Just some logic to think through. You will get some warnings, and I think normally you can ignore them, and your programs are going to work exactly the same until you get like a syntax error or something like that. So if you want to ignore it and keep going, you're normally going to be fine. Now it does give you like notes of things that will change in the future, but if you're not going to update your Python too often, then that's fine. And even if you don't, you can kind of save the version of Python you have as part of your script. And that way, if you ever need to read it, run it, and it's causing issues with versions, Python saves all the versions that they have. You can always go back to the version you want to be using and then go ahead and run it based on that version. But at least for me, this is just a one-time thing. These things aren't going to change too often. Um, Even the error message I saw, I don't think it'll actually affect anything in the future. So I'm happy to ignore it, and it's going to work perfectly for my purposes. But thanks for watching. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out. Also, definitely reach out on LinkedIn, Python Dave. Dang. See, this is all behind the scenes type stuff. All right, not gonna enter my stuff. LinkedIn, Python Dave. I'll do better next time, but I hope this was helpful. Have a good one. Bye.